problem solving, I think, is what I really enjoy, and sort of coming up with solutions, and for making sure that we're doing it all in the right way. And yeah, I think that's what I really enjoy at the moment. I still love, and I'm not discrediting my cooking. I love it. Like, I don't want to do anything else, or I can't do anything else anyway.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. When we think of hospitality, we often think of cafes and restaurants, but weddings, events, and private dining offerings are as specialised as those, if not more so. What does it take to run a successful group that specialises in this important niche? Ryan Fitzpatrick is the executive chef of the Ohana Group. Ryan, how are you?
Good, mate, good. How about yourself?
I'm great. It's good to get you on the show. You're a busy group doing all sorts of things, not just weddings and events. You've got a standalone restaurant as well. How are things?
Mate, it's been good. Very interesting. Very busy at the moment. But yeah, we are going from strength to strength, which is really encouraging.
It's multifaceted, the Ohana Group. Tell us a little bit about the different elements of it.
Sure. So the Ohana Group's made up of 4 businesses. Our flagship is Ohana Dining, which we started 5 years ago. Essentially, it's a catering business. Our first event we ever did was Noosa Eat and Drink, which was sort of threw us in the fire, I guess. So yeah, we took on that. But yeah, we do anything from private dinings, weddings, larger events, festivals, things like that. We've just recently refurbished our purpose-built warehouse, which we call Venue, which is a play on venue, which we didn't know what to call it. So that's our production kitchen, which we've got a fully custom 10-person chef's table and a mezzanine for 30 people and stand-up functions as well. My partner has just launched a dried floral business called Petrofleur. And then we also have just taken over, I guess, it was one of Noosa's sort of iconic spots many years ago with David Rayner having Thomas Corner Eatery, and we've just opened up Lanai and Noosa. So sort of seafood-focused restaurant, small plates, pretty casual, embracing sort of Noosa's casual, elegant vibe, I guess, is what we're going for. So, yeah.
What's it like, opening the venue you just opened recently? What's that been like, sort of, given the other elements of your businesses are a little bit different to a standalone restaurant? Yeah,
absolutely. So I guess Noosa being such a seasonal town, opening up in the middle of winter, a lot of people sort of said we were mad, but it sort of gave us time to activate that venue that sort of sat dormant for a couple of years. So now that in the warmer months that we're coming into, it's really starting to cement itself as one of the better venues, I guess, working alongside all the restaurants in Noosa that everyone knows. But yeah, it's been good to step back into the restaurant game, but obviously has its ups and downs, like with anything. But all positive though.
Tell us a little bit about Noosa and the fluctuations of the seasons. What's it like as an operator there in a town that's quite reliant on tourists at different times of the year?
Yeah, I think as many people like on the Sunshine Coast and Noosa know, there's weeks generally from like September all the way through to the end of January is sort of the season, with obviously that December and January periods getting activated with all the people coming up, that's prime time. But essentially, what we have to do in Noosa is really, we sort of have to look after mainly the locals, because that's sort of what gets you through to those busy periods. So, as much as it's good to fill out restaurants and everything during the summer, we still have to cater to those locals, those regulars, and still provide the same service and I guess hospitality to those guys as well.
What's the region like in regards to produce? Is there some operators that you have connections with and farmers that you can tell us about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we in Noosa and the surrounds of some, there's no, besides obviously the well-known seafood options. But you sort of look to the hinterland. There's no real primary industry. It's all small scale producers, and what they produce is amazing quality produce. We work quite closely with Noosa Red's tomatoes. Peter has had a really tough year because we got hit with floods a couple of years ago. Obviously, the COVID cloud. So his production of sort of A grade tomatoes and herbs and things has been quite low. However, he's producing great seconds. They might not be aesthetically pleasing, but we basically take what he has with this in regards to the seconds and value add that. If it's a tomato powder, sugo, or we've got like an ugly Noosa Red salad, which is the same great flavour, but just doesn't look very appealing. you know. But then I work quite closely with an Indigenous organisation called SevGen. They own Australia's largest Indigenous-owned orchard just out the back of Karoi. So massive producer of like Davidson plums, native tamarinds, lemon myrtle, satin ash. So we work really closely with Auntie Terry in that regard. So yeah, there's so many little niche producers that not many people hear about, but we try to utilize them the best we can, and especially in those like down times as well, because as much as the venues or the events might be quiet during the winter months, they're still producing a decent quality. So it's sort of up to us to sort of keep them going as well.
You mentioned the quality seafood that's there, and those waters that are just near you are renowned for some incredible seafood. What's some real standouts for you that you like to utilise from the region?
Yeah, so the crowd favourites, Mooloolaba tuna, the prawns, spanner crab. They're sort of the big players of it. We've got swordfish as well. There's little underutilised like the champagne craze. There's so much abundance of it, we really try to utilise that the best we can, because a lot of it also gets sent, down south and overseas as well. So yeah, we sort of have to get our hands on it before everyone else does.
Well, I want to explore everything that you're doing in the various businesses that you have shortly, but take us back to when you were young. Whereabouts did you grow up, and what sort of role did food play?
Yeah, so I grew up in a little coastal town called Ballina, which is about 35 minutes south of Byron, also known as California to so a lot of it's good to see that area sort of thrive with some well-known chefs activating that area, and also other chefs growing up there like Jesse McTavish and all that. But yeah, sort of same thing, very quiet sort of seaside town, good fishing industry. Just a really, really nice place to grow up. In terms of food, I guess our household, it was an Irish Latvian household, so Christmases were very different. With my grandparents, more seafood focused on Christmas days, prawns and cold cuts, and then you go to the European side of it and lots of sauerkraut and pierogies and sausages and things like that. So it was a pretty food focused family. I guess that sort of installed what I wanted to do, and my grandparents were always so into cooking. So yeah, like most chefs, I think that's sort of where it all starts.
Is there any sort of dishes that really stand out from when you were young that you can tell us about?
Yeah, so my great-grandmother used to make I guess the translation was bacon pies, but it was almost like pierogies, but the Latvian version. So it was like a sweet brioche type bun with like fresh yeast and a fair bit of sugar, but inside like speck and confit sort of onions, I guess. She didn't say confit obviously at the time, but yeah, that was great with like, well, not that I could drink also as a kid, but with the adults drinking beers and things like that, it was sort of like a good snacky thing, and everyone just loved it. So yeah, that's sort of a massive player in the household growing up.
When did you first start getting interested in food and make the steps into to become a chef?
Mate, I wanted to start off, I think it was, I don't, which way it was. Either I wanted to be a marine biologist, because I think I went to SeaWorld one time and I was like, oh, I've got to train dolphins. But then my mum said, oh, you have to like study hard at school, which I wasn't really into. And then I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll, I think a jet went up, the beach at Ballina at Angels Beach or something. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be a fighter pilot. Same thing. And Mum's like, look, that's probably, you got better chance of being a marine biologist than a fighter pilot. So then that went out the window. And then I remember, I think the memory was at the time in the 90s, Jamiroquai was massive. And it was like prime time, mid-90s. And I remember watching this documentary that young Jamie Oliver went and like lived with him while they recorded this album. And I was like, oh man, that's pretty cool. And so I guess, I don't know, Gordon probably wouldn't be too proud, but I guess, Jamie Oliver and Jamiroquai did it for me,
That's amazing. What were the first steps that you made into the industry, and what were the first couple of years like for you?
Like as an apprentice?
Yeah.
So I left, basically didn't do too well at school except for hospitality and food tech. So I left school when I was 16 and moved up to Noosa. And then sort of various roles of, first year apprentice sort of 20 years ago. Not great pay, worked in like some pubs and some little cafes and things like that. Sort of getting my head around the whole, adult life and getting paid not much and, sort of that old school mentality and things. But yeah, I just kept every day. I just loved it more and more. So yeah, and I ended up finishing my apprenticeship at a restaurant in Noosa that's still there, Sales, which then they sort of started, the town sort of activate the Noosa Food and Wine Festival. And so I became quite friendly with all the head chefs, because it's such a small town, everyone sort of knows each other and everything. So I started to work these festivals as an apprentice for free, just to work with all these, great chefs. Because, Noosa doesn't really see big names in hospitality, all the time. It's only that sort of 1 week period. So yeah, that's sort of how it all began, and I just became more driven and sort of, it just made more sense that that's what I wanted to do.
What have been the really important venues and people that you've worked with as you built your career?
Then I guess for me, my career is very different, where I worked at the press club for a little bit after I did a food and wine festival. George and at the time the head chef Justin Wise, they invited me down to do a trial, which I had a list of people I wanted to get a job offer from, and there was that they were on the top of the list because they won 2 hats that year, and George won Chef of the Year, won Restaurant of the Year. So for me, that was like the pinnacle. So so for me, that like having that under my I guess offered to me was amazing. But I guess for me, my career has been different, where I haven't necessarily worked in well-known massive restaurants and done 3 years under someone. I've sort of come in and out of like private chefing, working on yachts and things like that, and sort of just finding like what I wanted to do rather than what you're like working under someone, which obviously has been a bit difficult and at times, but also a bit more rewarding because I've sort of done it for myself.
Well, take us on that journey. You mentioned sort of private chefing and yachts. Tell take us through a journey of your career and some of the adventures you've been on.
Yeah, so after the press club, I moved to France. I moved to the Southern Alps. And yeah, I worked in, I guess I did a chalet season for a company for about 3 or 4 months. And then that was sort of the invitation of like working privately for, like wealthy businessmen and families, things like that. So I did that sort of for 4 months and then got quite a number of like offers to cook for these families and businesses and companies and for the summer. So basically got flown around sort of Europe for 6 months up until the next winter season, just doing and cooking for these people. And yeah, it was sort of opened my eyes to a whole different world that not necessarily, I think, sometimes you get clouded with being a chef, just thinking restaurants are the only answer. But as like a young 19, 20-year-old, qualified, but thinking that you know everything, but realistically, no, fuck all. It's trying to like faking it. It was pretty amazing, really. And I look back on it, and just what happened was pretty great.
Well, you've cooked sort of all over the world. Do you have any stories of some of the adventures and sort of, where you learnt some lessons and learnt to use different ingredients?
Yeah, so I guess the biggest thing, I think I said before, like when you're qualified and you're young, you're so eager, but the realization now that, we still, as chefs and as people, you still learn, like every day you learn. But I think in your early 20s, you sort of it gets a bit clouded. You think as much as you might be getting flown around the world and all that and everything's great, you actually don't know too much and how to all deal with it all. So for me, like my appreciation now is, like immersing myself in these, destinations and things where people, want you to cook, but also trying to utilize all these amazing markets and small producers and little families and recipes and people that want to show you things and sort of using that to then creatively come up with something. I think that's, for me, that's a massive thing that what I do now, and it's just really, really good.
Whereabouts did you go cooking on a yacht, for instance?
So the last yacht, which was I was there for 6 years. So we were based in the South and North Pacific. So essentially, we just did Fiji and Hawaii. So for 6 months in the southern hemisphere for the winter, we'd be in Fiji, and then we'd be in Hawaii for 6 months for their winter as well. But during that time, we'd go to different islands and countries and things like that. But that was sort of the run we did for that period. Now, like from say Sydney to Hawaii is like 9 hours, but on a yacht from Fiji, it's at best 2 weeks. And I thought everyone. Hospitality, you work long hours and, 14-hour shifts and 16-hour shifts. But on a yacht for 2 weeks when you've got to cook and you've got to be on watch, so you're on like a 3-hour watch, you're getting like an hour's sleep and then you're up to cook for the crew, then you're on watch for 3 hours and then, you're down for an hour and you don't know basically what day it is, where you are in the world. And yeah, it's pretty cool actually.
Tell us about that sort of Hawaii, Fiji adventure that you're on. Is there sort of any dishes from that period of time or things that you cooked that sort of exemplifies your cooking and what you were doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, like the Pacific, both North and South, is this the cuisine, I guess, gets pretty poorly represented when people go to those places. Like they stay in the nice hotels and everything, and there's club sandwiches and pizzas and things like that. But generally, especially in Fiji, the best food is at someone's house. they've got like Kokonda, which is it's spelt Kokoda, but Kokonda's their sort of national dish. Essentially, it's just a ceviche with fresh coconut cream. They use like wahoo or walu. It's such an amazing dish. Often served in the coconut to sort of give you that vibe. The Fiji chicken curry or the Indian curry, there's a massive Indian part of Fiji. So there's lots of spices and it's the culture and the food is amazing. There's roro, I might be pronouncing that wrong, but essentially it's the top of like the taro leaf. You've got to soak it and cook it because it's got this like if you eat it raw, it almost I accidentally, well not accidentally, I did it on purpose, but just a small bit, and it feels like you eat a whole bunch of steel wool for about 4 or 5 hours, and it feels like your throat's closing up. The Fijians told us not to do it, but being thinking that you know better, it obviously caught the better of us. But it's this delicious. Once it's cooked down with like onions and garlic and coconut cream, it's almost like a really sweet sort of cream spinach, and it's such a big part of what they call like a lovo, which is like a hangi or a luau type thing. So it's such an amazing cuisine. And then in regards to Hawaii, you've got poke, malasadas, which are like a Spanish or Portuguese donut, huli huli chicken on the North Shore, which is like rotisserie chicken. Pineapples are a big influence, and then the shrimp trucks as well. So it's very vast, but I feel like a very unexplored sort of cuisine, I guess.
You mentioned Jamie Oliver and Jamiroquai earlier. Cooking on yachts and being a private chef. Do you have any stories of celebrities or sports stars that you've cooked for?
I do. I guess for me, there's like obviously NDAs and things like that. But I've got really good close friends that are more so on those charter vessels that all those sorts of people book out. I was quite fortunate to work on a private yacht for a businessman, and then even some of the like the other vessels I worked on previously, it was all very business orientated sort of people. I guess when I was in Europe, it was more so like sports stars and things like that. But I don't know. It's a tough one. There are stories. I'm just not sure if I can tell them.
Can you tell us about maybe some of the food that you cooked without mentioning who the celebrity is one time?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I guess that's another thing is realizing that with this sort of career path or food, there's times in which they don't always eat like 3 courses or have a degar. Sometimes it's simplicity. It's because they can go to all these amazing restaurants, whether it be New York, London, Spain, and at any point though they can activate those. So essentially, when they use these vessels or wherever they are for holidays, it has to be pretty simple for them. They just sort of want to, and that's the whole thing, I think, with hospitality. It's knowing when to turn it on and when you can turn it off, but still providing a hospitable service, knowing the guests' expectations and what they'd like, because essentially that's what it is. Like if we're doing degos every night, like I don't know about you, but you get a bit tired and everything gets a bit lost, if you're doing it sort of 4 or 5 days in a row. So yeah.
So when did you sort of leave the seas and head for land, and what triggered it?
So my contract finished on the yacht in Fiji. That's where I met my wife. She was a wedding stylist and with her own business in Fiji. So we sort of decided to come back and reside back in Noosa and start up sort of 5-6 years ago. So yeah, it was we knew it was happening, and yeah, it was either going to be Fiji or Noosa. It was sort of a pretty hard decision from paradise to paradise, but yeah, that's that's sort of what happened.
Well, tell us a little bit about the sort of event space and the sort of things that you do. Is cooking quite different in that setting?
Yeah, so like we still offer to most of our guests, like the private dining at holiday houses and all that. We still do. We're heavily involved in the Noosa Eat and Drink Festival for next year. But yeah, it's for me. It's a lot of organising, but I sort of that's one thing that I like. Cooking's one part, but the organising and planning is such a thing that I really enjoy. Sort of like problem solving and things like that. It's such a to you sort of get the butterflies sort of weeks leading up to it, but once it's sort of done and it, no one's died or it's it's all worked out. It's quite an achievement to sort of see what you can pull off. And I guess that's with opening up the restaurant, and we just sort of try to slowly push every year, and just try and do as much as we can, and with good attitudes and just for the right reasons as well.
But what does it take to do one of these big events, whether it's a wedding or the like? Take us through a sort of typical menu that you might do and the experience.
Yeah, so like I guess for us, like with any offsite events, opposed to a restaurant, you essentially have to work backwards. So in a restaurant, you prep up. Your order comes in, you cook it, you serve it. But with offsite catering, you essentially have to take all your kitchen equipment, all the plates and everything, and you basically plan the dish as it is complete, and you work backwards. And the less steps you have to take into, because you've got variables of power, what equipment you can use, and sometimes it can be a bit challenging, but it's it's pretty cool sort of planning process. In regards to the menu, like say for this Friday, there's 12 menu items. We're starting off with oysters and fries, and that's what the bride wanted, and I think for me that's good when people know what they want and we can deliver that. That's it's a pretty cool thing. Then we work our way down the anchovy toast. So so we've had to order a heap of Ortiz anchovies because that's the type of anchovies you wanted. Bug rolls. It's just all comfort food that I think with some people as well with the events that we do. Food is such a big part of it, and especially when you're working with families and things like that. Like they really do appreciate you customizing menus or having a little tweak of a dish that they might like as a kid, and sort of replicating that in a canapé form or a substantial form, and just putting a little twist on it. I think that it's sort of those little touches sort of go a long way. So yeah, it's every menu's sort of different, and I guess like I said, it's quite an enjoyable sort of process, because it takes you away from sort of the day-to-day of the sameness of restaurants and coming in every day of doing the same thing. So yeah, it's good.
Speaking of restaurants, can you take us to the restaurant and perhaps run through a dish or two that exemplifies your cooking in that setting?
Yeah, so we've been open for 4 months. The style of food is, like we said, is seafood focused, share plates. It being Lanai, I don't know, maybe people know the space, but there's like the Thomas Corner Eatery. Had the porch area or the veranda, and Lanai means porch or veranda. So I guess we just wanted to sort of embrace that. So with that, and obviously the extensive sort of travelling through the Pacific, sort of bring a few little of those touches in. So Yeah, we've got kingfish poke on, huli huli chicken, which is sort of our take on it. Huli huli is just turn, so rotisserie Hawaiian chicken. Taro chips, things like that. But yeah, we just wanted to do, because the style of food over the years have changed, and expectations of dining, and share style is such a, as much as there's it ruffles a few feathers, I guess, but it's for us. It's just all about like sharing. It's casual. It's you generally do it over a table with friends or family at Christmas time or birthdays and things like that. So essentially, it's just trying to keep that alive, I guess. Yeah.
Has the move to Noosa and the business that you've set up, has that changed you in the last sort of couple of years?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I feel like it's I've grown up a lot. Just it's trying to still be have a chef brain, but also a business mind, and also the team is such a crucial part of like where we are. I think we're a bit different to, I guess, most companies where we're a very small team, but we're all pretty open and honest with each other. If we're having bad weeks or something's happening in our lives, like we're all pretty open and honest, and everyone sort of lifts each other, and we all talk about our goals and where we want to go and things like that. So, I think for me in the last 5 years, a big realization of figuring out what I want to do, and then what my wife and I want to do, and sort of make sure that it fits in with everyone else, and vice versa. So yeah, it's been good. It's been a really good. I feel like I'm an adult now. After yeah.
Well, you're doing amazing things there with a really dynamic business. What do you love about what you do?
Look, there's obviously, it's not always like peaches and cream, but my favourite thing is problem solving. Not that I'm saying that we've got a heap of problems, but my favourite thing is just like problem solving. If we're at events and like the power goes out, or there's something happens with a supplier, like how do we rectify that, and just problem solving, I think is what I really enjoy, and sort of coming up with solutions, and for making sure that we're doing it all in the right way. And I think that's what I really enjoy at the moment. I still love, and I'm not discrediting my cooking, I love it. Like I don't want to do anything else, or I can't do anything else anyway. Can't jump a plane or train dolphins, but I love it, and that's all, will always be a part of it. But for the adult side of me, just the problem solving and helping people, and even just giving advice of like where I've done stupid things, and making sure that my team or my friends don't do that as well, and just providing just solutions.
Well, Ryan, it's an absolute honour to chat to you today on Deep in the Weeds, and look forward to everything that you're creating there in Noosa and seeing what you do next. Please keep in touch, and we'll have to catch up again soon.
Absolutely, mate, and thank you so much.
This is the Deep in the Weeds
letting
podcast.
Me come on.
I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.